All right, here we go.
All right.
Perot Systems Part 5.
Okay.
Uh,
I think we left off where just starting. We talked to Mr. Perot about the email I had sent, and
yeah, you had written him an email,
And we
and then
did-
he says he's got stuff for you to do.
yeah,
And so I kind of, at this point, then, you're sort of doing special projects for Mr. Perot.
exactly. Whatever he asked me to do, I would do.
Okay. So what's the first thing?
I'm chronologically, I can't remember. I want to go back to something. I said I didn't want to mention names,
Right.
and when I started talking about Mr. Perot firing people, I mentioned names.
Yeah.
So bad on me. I think the first thing he asked me to do was head up the Y2K effort for Perot Systems.
Right.
And that was going to be, again, this is somewhere in 1999, and that was going to be an effort to get all the programs, coordinate, especially midnight January or December 31st, 1999. But in general terms, programs, you knew that that was not really going to be an issue. I mean, if there were issues, you could look at the programs and fix them.
Yeah. Now, is this before or after the waste management?
This is way before.
Okay. All right. So Y2K.
Yeah. So Y2K, and all I'm doing now is I'm putting together a team. Now there was several people who were displaced like I was,
Right.
and I brought them onto the team. And some of them were really talented people, had been senior managers at other locations. But in general terms, we all worked together in an effort to make sure that Pro System wasn't going to be impacted by Y2K. And like me, some of them had skills that Ms. Perot wanted or used, not only for business reasons, but other people would come in and ask for him for help, and he would try to help them. And one of the ladies that was working with me on the Y2K effort was a refugee from Cuba. Of course, her English was better than mine.
Right.
But she was a Spanish speaker, and he had asked her to do some things in some of the areas of Central America and the Caribbean that were, he needed other people to ask him for something. He asked her to go do that. And so she would be gone for a while, but, very talented lady, smart lady, just, glad that she was on working with me. I wouldn't say she's on the team. She's a senior manager also at Frito-Lay. So she had a background. And she had also known Ron Rittenmeyer. And there were others that were similar, that they came and did some things. And there was a project coming along. We were first one to pick from, myself or somebody else that was working for me, because they're all talented people. Right. Anyway, at somewhere in that time period, Daewoo was going to declare bankruptcy. Daewoo was a Korean company,
right,
that built everything.
Now what happened with Y2K?
Well, it's just going on. This is still 1999. Okay. So we're working on the Y2K. There's not a lot to do. You check with everybody. You put in some parameters. You meet with the programming staff, and we're all in sync with what we're going to look at and make sure it's going to work right. And like I said, I didn't have any doubts that we weren't going to have to do a heck of a lot.
And buy extra water, extra rice and beans.
Nothing. We didn't have emergency rations or anything. Anyway, Daewoo comes along. So Perot Systems puts together a team. I'm on the team to go over and see if there's any intellectual property that we may be able to acquire from Daewoo before they declare bankruptcy. So I think there were 5 or 6 of us that went to Korea. And Daewoo gave us a tour of everything. They built automobiles. They built military vehicles, APCs, tanks. They built ships. We went to the shipyard to see they built ships. They were building telephones, refrigerators, washers, dryers, just a whole list of stuff. They had multiple companies like Lucky Gold Star. And so we were over there and we'd visit these places. And And after our visits, we'd meet in the evening and see if there was anything that looked like was intellectual property that would serve us well. And I think we spent a week there with them. And it was an opportunity for me to go back and meet some of the people that I'd worked with Lucky Gold Star when I was
Right.
there with EDS. And some of them were still at the STM, the company, and the president was still there, YT Kim. Anyway, so we come back and we put together a presentation for Mr. Perot, and basically I think there was one or two things, and I can't recall what they were, that may have been interesting for us to take a harder look at if there was a real deal
Right.
that would make us money. And that was Mr. Perot's initial reaction was, is this something that's viable today that we get it, we can start making money off of it? Then we had to investigate a little further before we make any rash decisions and try to spend money that
Right.
are not going to generate anything. And so now we're, I don't know, probably we're around the Y2K end period. And like I said, everything's going as it's supposed to go. And I'm not 100% sure of the dates. But he asked me to go back to Korea and look at these couple of things that the team had said may be viable for Perot Systems to look at the intellectual property and see if we could get it. And so I'm at the airport, and Perot Systems had a policy that if you went over 5,000 miles, you got to fly business class. And of course, Dallas to Korea was over 5,000 miles, so I was going to fly business class, but they upgraded me to first class. So I check in, and I got upgraded. I go to first class lounge, and I get paged. And I answer the phone, and Mr. Perot says, and he asked me, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at the airport." He said, "What are you doing there?" I said, "I'm going to Korea." "Why are you going to Korea?" "Because you asked me to go." He said, "Well, I don't want you to go to Korea." I said, "Why don't you come back, come to the office?" I said, "Okay." So I think at that time, Mom had dropped me off at the airport, so I had to get her to come back and get my bags. And I got back home and then left my bag here and went into the office. And Mr. Perot had a sales guy and me and him in the office. And he explained to me that there's a waste management company in Houston. It was a small waste management company, and it had bought a larger waste management company, which was Waste Management.
Right.
The name of the company was Waste Management.
Right.
They had bought this company that was stationed in Illinois. And that there had been some allegations about insider trading and things, and the entire board had been removed. The entire upper management team had been removed. And the gentleman that was running it was an investor, bank investor, who had a lot of his clients that were invested in waste management. His wife, and this is all alleged, I don't know any of his facts. Right. His wife was a producer for the Larry King Show that had Mr. Perot on when he was running for president in 1992, had called him and say, "Can you help my husband?" And he said, "I want you to go down there and see if there's anything we can do to help."
He's saying this to you.
He's saying this to me, and the sales guy is supposed to go down there and make sure that if there is something we can help them, then we can make money off of it.
Right.
And sell, is there an opportunity to do more than just go down and help this gentleman? My job was to go down and see if we could help him.
Right.
His job was to go down and look and see if there was an opportunity for business. Right. So, I think the next morning we get on a plane, fly into Houston Hobby, go into Waste Management. I meet with this guy's the acting CEO, whatever his role is. And he tells me about the issues they're having. They're not being able to get the trucks dispatched right, and things are just not working. The computer systems are not functioning properly. And he's got a whole list of consultants in there and just trying to find out how I fix all of this and get the company back on track. Because all the senior management's gone.
Right. And
I tell them, I need a little bit of time to go work with your IT department, because that's what I was going to do, see if there's anything in that area that wasn't functioning properly. And could we could we come in and help him do that? And so he calls the CIO of the company, says he's going to send this guy down here and work with them. Want to see if he can look at things and see if we can anything we can do to improve where we're at in this process. And so I go down and I meet with the CIO and I tell him, can I just walk around, talk to people? And yeah, you can have free reign, do what you need to do. It's all fine with me. I said, give me some history on the companies and what's, what we're doing. And he said, yeah, we had a small waste management company here. I don't remember the name.
Mm-hmm.
We purchased waste management from Chicago. We had to decide which computer system we were going to use. We selected ours, and come to find out, he wrote theirs with another gentleman.
Right.
They were both from Ohio. They had written the system, sold it to Houston,
Right.
and we're down there running it. And of course, small company, big company. I'm thinking this back mind, it probably was not a real good decision, but let's see. And so I spend, I told him I needed a week. Probably the end of the first day, the second day. As I said to you in previous interviews that we've done, change management, problem management. Well, theirs was terrible. Okay, they had no urgency when something failed. They weren't talking to the customer to find out what issues they were having in terms of entry, scheduling, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so I sat down with the CIO and I said, we have to fix this. There has to be urgency. There have to be rules on change management. You can't change anything. You have to have a meeting every day to get input from the customer. What's wrong? Is that on us, or is our system causing that? And it was a bad idea to select a small system that's run in small companies to select a system that may have been much better off to run all the bigger companies.
Right.
And of course, he disagreed with me. And that's your prerogative. I understand that.
Right.
I have to report to the CEO. I want you to come with me when I tell him what I just told you. And so we scheduled a meeting. This is day 3.
Right.
I go up and said, in my humble opinion, I'm going to tell you what I think is wrong and why it's wrong. And so I went through a whole litany of what I just said. He looked at the CIO. He said, you agree? He said, no, I don't agree. And he asked me, can you fix it? I said, yeah, I can fix it. I said, but I'm going to need cooperation and people to work with me. So if I'm going to fix it, I need to have the authority to fix it. And he said, well, I'm going to give you the authority to fix it. And he looked at the CIO and said, you're going to work and help him get this done? He said, I'm not going to work with him. So he quit, and I go downstairs, and I've now inherited this workflow.
Right.
And I go to the young guy who had helped develop the system with him, and I say, I need your help. But obviously, if you guys think you shouldn't help fix this thing, then I'll understand that, and you can leave too. He said, no, I think we can fix it, and I want to help fix it. And so I said, okay, what do we need? What do you need? He said, well, I need some more skills sets with the language that the system was in, and I forget what language it was. It was running not mainframes. I think it was on mini computers or different size computer. Right. So I said, okay, let me see what I can do. So I went back to Perot, and I got some Perot guys, knew change management, knew how to runtime improve stuff, knew how to do program 2 or 3 guys that I'd worked with, knew they were going to come down and get on the same page as I was. Work with these guys from waste management, not try to belittle them because they didn't say. So I brought some good people in. I asked Perot Systems to search for anybody who had this language skills. And I don't know how we hooked up with this IBM guy who was one of the masters in the hardware that they were running. And he had just retired from IBM. I don't know how we got in touch with him. In any regard, there was a gal in Albuquerque, New Mexico that turned out to be really, really, really sharp on the language and programming and stuff. Asked her, talked to her on the phone, asked her if she'd come to Houston for a while and work with us. She said yes. Got this IBM guy who, him and his wife had a 5th wheeler and they wanted to travel around the United States. He said if he could work while he was traveling, it'd be great. So yeah, he'd like to come in and take a position for however many months we
Right.
needed him and try to help fix it. So now we put together a team of people that are all on the same page. We're going to have the morning management. We're going to
Right.
get information. And so over a couple of months, we sort of turned the system around,
Right.
which generally getting dispatches out and getting things done because the customers told us what they needed and we're delivering it.
Right.
And you know the programmers now, you got another person, the guy who knows the system, somebody who's an expert at it, and the person who's an expert at the hardware. So and the guys that I brought down. So we got a working team that can do all of the stuff we need to get done. We laid out a process that we were going to use. We used
Right.
it. 2.5, 3 months. They hire a new CEO.
Right.
That sort of settled down. Some of the consultants started leaving, and all the things that were supposed to happen were slowly happening.
Right.
But they wanted to bring in a CEO who was going to run the place for
Right.
the foreseeable future.
Right.
And they chose a guy who was a CEO of Yellow Truck. And he had a CIO, he had a chief information
Right.
officer that he brought with him.
Right.
And of course, I sat down with the CIO, went through everything we were doing and told him what we're doing. And him and the CIO or CEO said, "Will you stay here and work with?" I said, "No. The Perot people will stay here and work with you. That team of people, as long as you want to reimburse Perot systems for these
Right.
guys working, they'll stay here and work with you." And it turned out the gal went to work for Waste Management and stayed in Houston. And the other guys eventually, after several months,
Right.
when they were to the point where they could use their people
Right.
and replace them, they went back to Perot systems. So I was there probably 3 months or so, 3-4 months, and come back and I did a couple other things. We tried to get UPS. Went to New Jersey, visited the UPS data centers. Wanted to try to get business with UPS. Perot had invited their executives to a ranch of his. We had a ranch.
Where was it? You remember?
I don't remember. He had cowboys roping stuff and country singers, and it was a nice evening.
Yeah.
At the end of the evening, he said, "Well, why don't you take them home in the Cadillac?" And so I've come to find out the Cadillac is a convertible with Longhorns on the front of it. So here we go with the roof down, driving through the country in downtown Dallas, and I take them back to the hotel and drop them off. But nothing came out of that. We didn't do that. And then there was another time that we were going to meet with Siemens in New York.
Right.
And so we're flying to from Dallas to New York. And we get to Dallas and walking down the street with Ross Perot. Now, I'm not a security guard.
Right.
There's no security with us. We're walking down the street, him and I. People are walking up, shaking his hand, saying everybody recognized the guy.
Right.
Went into the restaurant, met with Siemens, and before we could eat, several people in the restaurant came over and asked for a signature for his autograph. We met with the Siemens guys, and it was getting late, and the Siemens said, "Well, we want to make sure you get back to your plane so you can get out on time. This is my plane, at least when I get back." But again, nothing came of that either.
Right.
And shortly after that, I left. I retired, and I told Mr. Perot, I'm really not earning my keep here. So I'm gonna retire and go live my life happily ever after.
Right.
A couple of things I want to say about Perot before we close off my relationship with Ross.
That was 2000.
Was 2000.
Right.
At one point in time, he had told me, and I'd known this because I'd been Perot for a long time. He had told me, and this is well known, that service people's families would come to him. The service guys were severely injured in Vietnam and wherever else we were engaged in, or accidents, and the VA, they couldn't get the help that the family thought they needed.
Right.
Mr. Perot would call specialists any place in the country and say, hey, I'm going to send somebody to you. I'd like you to look at them. Send me a bill after so whatever it costs, I want you to take care of this gentleman, lady. And he said, nobody ever sent me a bill. I'd been away from Perot for 10 years. Mom got carcinoid cancer.
Right.
And couldn't find anybody that would work with us in the Dallas area with carcinoid cancer. So I called his office, and the gal that was working there knew me.
Right.
And I explained to her what I was looking for, because my wife has carcinoid cancer, having a hell of a time getting somebody to, sit down with us and give us some facts about what we needed to do, et cetera, et cetera. She said, okay, let me. And half an hour later, the president of Southwest University secretary called me. Whatever you need, call this number and we'll do it for you.
That's pretty cool.
Well,
yeah,
that was Mr. Perot.
Right.
I didn't forget you.
Right.
When he was going to do things for people. He threw away the mold when they created him. So.
Right. Right. And so what year was that you retired in?
2000.
2000.
That was sort of 2000, yeah.
So I think this is like your third retirement.
Well, I retired from the Army.
Right.
I didn't really retire from EDS.
But we're going to call it retired.
Okay, we can call it. So I retired from EDS.
And
so now I'm 63.
Right.
In that neighborhood, I think.
All right. And then will you start your next job on the next edition?
We'll talk about coming out of retirement at 63 and then coming out of retirement at 73.
Yeah.